Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another episode of the one and only King's Court. I am your host, George Brown.
I guess that makes me the co-host.
Mandus being Mandus. How you doing, man?
George, this is one of my favorite times of year. I love the holidays. I grew up in a house where it was festive and Christmas music was always playing and grandma was always cooking and baking. And so for me, this time of year, no matter what's going on, I know there's a lot of people who this is a bad time of year for them. Uh, but I hope they can see that the happiness and the good of the holiday season, even if they got some bad memories. And if you've got a not so great memory, how about maybe make a new happy memory for you and for somebody else? So happy holidays, everybody. I'm fantastic, George, man. Life is good.
Yeah, life is great, man. And like you said, it's just all energy. You have the memory. So remember that. And a lot of times the memories are, some good, some bad, but that's just life. You got to take the good with the bad and just appreciate the experience. But let's start it off with reviewing the San Diego show.
Well,
Take
I
it
was
away.
there, so I mean, I got some in depth for you at this show. Uh, we've talked a lot in the past about different regions and
Okay.
how things are run. Um, this was the first time that I got to be at a show in the front row there, like we usually are in a media section, where I wasn't working as a media guy.
Mm.
Uh, I was there just as a coach and as a spectator. Man, it was a fun show. It was a really good time. So Tamer El Gundy and the Muscle Contest crew, they like high energy. They like the music loud. Woo! Maybe I'm getting old, but that was, if I had one thing to say, maybe the music could have come down just a hair. But other than that,
Ain't nobody going to sleep.
ain't no. You might want to bring some earbuds, but uh, the music was pumping. They had a great MC who was full of high energy. Big Sexy was out there MCing, and Tamer's on the mic for his shows. And I tell you what, um, I loved what he did. So he brought the call outs out as he usually would, first, second, third, and then he worked them backwards. So once they went through that first round and you saw what they did, he moved people around a lot. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen people moved around this much, except for usually when Steve is head judging, because Steve loves comparisons. Well, I saw Tamer comparing, and then he brought back out three, and those three were fighting for 6, 7, and 8. And some people were confused because they said, "Well, wait a minute, what are these?" And I really, he brought back 6, 7, and 8 and worked them, and then he kept 6 on stage, right? And then he brought 4 and 5 back. So 4, 5, 6 were battling,
Mm.
and they were working, and then he brought back out the top 3 uh,
Mm.
to see where they were. Then he brought out the entire first call out to go through. So I tell you what, at the end of the day, Jeremy Potvin was the best guy on stage, hands down. Congratulations, Jeremy. You stamped your ticket going back to the Olympia where you belong. But within that particular lineup, you can't really, there's not much to argue about who finished second, third, fourth, and fifth, because you got to see every guy next to each other and they earned their stripes. They earned their placing. Now, you could say, well, if Jeremy Potvin wasn't the winner, 1 through 5 would have been completely different. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the top 5 was really based around the winner.
Powder. Yeah.
Okay, so the shapes, the structures, the development, 2, 3, 4, 5 were all based around comparability to Jeremy Potvin. Um, so if somebody wanted to split hairs, they could go there. But as far as comparisons and earning your position, I thought it was fantastic. There's nothing for anyone to argue about or debate. Not to mention, sure, second, third, fourth matters, but what's most important is getting the winner, right guy in the winner's circle, and the right guy was in the winner's circle, no doubt. Kudos to Jeremy. Kudos to Tamer, because I haven't seen it work that way. And I tell you what, I wonder if more people won't start doing that. It was very interesting, George, and it showed you every single person. You know what else it did? It made me realize on a personal level that posing, 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 and posing some more is about to be in people's plans that much more, because if you didn't practice posing and presentation all that much, let's say you were originally the 7th or 8th guy, right? You were near the end of the second call out, and he brought you back out, and you worked through 7 and 8, and you worked through 4, 5, 6. How could you ever catch back up into the 3, 4, 5 hole if you started out at 8? You'd be dead. You'd be fried.
Yeah.
So it made it very interesting, and it brought a whole new element of the sport that not enough guys work on in that stage presentation. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, man. Congratulations to Jeremy Potvin. AJ Clemson took second, and Jason Hin, I hope I'm saying it right, took third. Congratulations to those guys. I like the sound of what you're saying, and I had to learn about posing and keeping my posing conditioning the hard way earlier, in my career. And it is. You never know if something like that will happen, so you better be prepared, because if you do have to go round after round, if you've been posing for weeks before it's your show, then it should be nothing. Or you could, melt on stage is what we call it, tan running, and that's not a good look. Nobody wants to see anybody melt.
A bloody mess.
So.
A quick
Yes.
note, George. The guy who took fourth, also Scott Zhang, is from China. So you had 3 and 4 were from out of the States, which Tamer runs a lot of international stuff. But it's nice to see the international athletes come out and be a part of the shows, but not only be a part of it, but have an impact. So you had 2 of the top 5 that weren't from here, and it was noticeable, and they could hold their own. I hope to see more international guys at more shows, not only the muscle contest. Obviously, they're there because the relationship with muscle contest and Tamer. So congratulations to him again for putting on a product that makes these guys comfortable to come out there. But we sure would like to see them in more shows all over the country, because this is going to make it that much more exciting. These guys look good.
If you look at Jeremy Potvin was the standard, but every single last guy was in shape. It just said he just was the better guy that day. All right, so let's blow a little smoke around. Next topic is the East versus the West. This is easy, but I'll let you take it away.
Well, this is something we're going to be talking about for forever, aren't we?
This is easy, man. It's easy, but go ahead.
Well, so I didn't realize that Potvin is now on the East Coast. Potvin's in Carolina now.
Yes.
But the answer to this, which has essentially always been easy, and it was the East Coast, shut it down, end the conversation, nothing for the West to say. If Potvin was still a West Coast guy, it's still the East Coast show, but they're bridging the gap, because not only was it Potvin, but you got Chiron out there now, and I'm gonna throw another name out there that I think is gonna be the breakout athlete of the year, and he resides in San Diego. It's your guy, okay? I saw him out there when I was out there. He just won a show not too long ago. I think this guy's going to be the breakout athlete of the year. And here is his name is slipping my mind for a second. It's your guy. He did the Arnold.
Did the Arnold? Oh, Fetty?
Fetty Mo. Sorry, Fetty. I drew a blank there. Fetty Mo is going to be the breakout guy of the year. He is the real deal. He's training out of the gym, which used to be the World Gym out in San Diego. It's one of the best gyms in the world. Every piece of equipment you could ever ask or want for. And there's a lot of good athletes out there. Eddie Brockmani's out there. Sergio Oliva Jr.'s out there. There's a lot of old 619 muscle guys out there. Derek Farnsworth, that are old veterans that you can learn a lot from. So if you're a young athlete and you're training out of that gym, you have everything you need. As a matter of fact, his coach is a 619 guy. So he's got everything he needs right around him. I'm going on record. Fetty, you're my breakout athlete of the year for 2020. The West Coast is coming. The West Coast is coming. But Jeremy Potvin's not there anymore, so they just lost one of their top guys. Fetty Moore and Chiron are nobody to play with. I'll tell you that.
I definitely agree with that.
And there's a couple more. There's a handful of others.
Yeah. We not, but we have to go, by the numbers. And the numbers, if you go off the top 10 Olympia, speak for themselves. You got East Coast number 1, Ray. East Coast number 2, Dre. Chiron, West Coast, that's 1. So it's 2-1 right now. 4th place, Brandon, East Coast. 5th was Ryan Terry. Where do we even put him? Just throw it out.
We're going to take it. He's home, UK. So we'll call him international.
Yeah, throw him out. Okay, so
Florida now.
6th place, international, Carlos. 7th place, Ant Jokes, East Coast. 8th place, Xavier, West Coast. They got 2. 9th place is myself, more than the East Coast. More than the West Coast. And then 10th place is Andre, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's international again.
So you got 3 international, 2 West Coast, and everybody else is East Coast. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just saying, for 2020, I think that West Coast is going to be making a little bit of noise. I think the conversation next is going to be East Coast, West Coast, international.
International. Okay.
That's going to be. But it's nice to see the West Coast bridging the gap, because for so long it was Jeremy Buendia and everybody else was from the East Coast. They really didn't have much representation, which is ironic because 2 of the best coaches in the country reside on the West Coast.
Yeah.
But I think 2020 is going to be a change. East Coast will still be the king, but I think West Coast is really bridging that gap.
Yeah, I think they definitely are, and we just gonna have to see because we don't know, and it's just all predictions. So
Yeah, I got a question for you now. I got a topic for you, George.
All right.
I'm an NPC athlete, and I'm getting ready to do a national level show. Okay, how important is it that these guys start looking at shows that are pro qualifier, pro AMs? Where they have the opportunity to not only qualify for that national show, but then be looked at and be judged by the judges who will be judging them at that national show. So they're in front of pro and national judges, as opposed to a panel of judges who are good judges, but they're local NPC judges. If they just do a regular regional level show. How much of a difference do you think that makes, if any at all?
So I would say this. My Pro-Am show, my pro qualifier was the Pittsburgh Pro-Am. Right? So not only am I at the show where all of the pros are there doing all the guest posing, that was Sadiq and Mark Anthony and them. They were about to do the first pro men's physique show. So I was there in that atmosphere as an amateur, and I got to experience a big show, without even knowing, So when it came time for me to do North Americans after that experience, it was the same stage, but I was used to seeing it pretty much as big as it could get. If you ever been to the Pittsburgh Pro, that's where, that's where the only times where the guest posing is like 10 guys, so it was Phil Heath, Kai Green, you name it, they were there, you know what I mean? And I didn't know what I was experiencing, but because of that, when it came time for me to go to North Americans. We had 40 people in my class. Okay, well, you know, all I know is a big show. So I think it took away jitters. I definitely think it matters, like you said, just because you do get to get in front of pro judges. I didn't know who anybody was back then, but you know, I still was able to get in front of them, and you know, it probably helped me by placing well in the show because I didn't win when I went to get my pro card and was able to get it. So definitely, I think that you know it's beneficial. You know.
You know, as we've been lucky enough to have the opportunity as the media to travel as much as we have over the last, you know, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it may be now, as often as we do, there's a definitive difference in the feel and the atmosphere of a regular regional show, and then some of these regional shows that are really big. There's only a handful of them. Eastern USA's, the Excalibur, and then Pro-Ams, where, as you said, George, not only are you in front of the national and pro judges who do have an even better trained eye than a regular judge. You know, there's levels, just like the competition. But you have the opportunity then to go and talk to these judges either right after the show or email them immediately as you're getting ready to go and do a national show. And a lot of times these are going to be judges who are going to see you in 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks later, or whatever show you decide to do. And it's human nature that if you are someone who is impressive and you talk to some judges and they tell you they want to see you a little drier, a little tighter, a little full, whatever the feedback is, and you come back 2, 3 weeks later, what do you think the chances are of that judge remembering you, winning your class or winning an overall, giving you advice on a few adjustments to make, and then seeing you not only 2 or 3 weeks later, but seeing you with those adjustments? Guys, they remember. They don't remember every single person every single time. But George, you and I have talked to enough judges and know enough situations where they do remember, they do see it, and they like to see the adjustments being made. It means you're an intellectual athlete who's listening and always wanting to get better. So there's that aspect. And the other aspect that you just touched on, nothing can mimic experience, right? We know that. Nothing is the same as actually going through it. So if you've always only been used to a smaller show and now you go to a big national show, there is a lot of jitters. There is a lot of things that can be overwhelming. Well, why not do your regional shows like you should in your own backyard? And before you go to a national show, take the time and the effort to go and do a Pro-Am show where you do get the experience of being in front of these national and pro judges, where you do get the feel and the experience of being on a bigger stage, seeing an entire media pit in front of you, being backstage and watching and listening to how the pros interact and how they carry themselves while you're picking up all this information. So then you know how to better handle that show. So now when you do go to a show 2, 3, 4 weeks later, it's not as big of a deal to you. I think it can only reap benefits and rewards. Now, the flip side of that coin is economically, you're fitting in another show. But if you're going to a national show and you have a real chance at going to get a pro card, should you fitting in one more show at a Pro-Am be the thing that economically gets in your way? I don't know if you're that prepared for the national stage anyways. So all it
Yeah.
really would take is a little more preparation ahead of time and economics to put yourself in a position for you to be that much better on a pro stage or on a national stage. It's also going to benefit them when they do their pro debut, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because they
definitely.
were just at the Pro-Am.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah.
a national stage is different than a regional stage, but and then so is a pro stage. So you get to prepare for all of that. My advice would be do your regional shows, find a pro-am, so you're still doing a regional show, but you get that experience and that feel. You get to then talk to that level of judging. And a lot of those judges, and I'll just throw a few names out there, guys, I hope you don't mind, but these are some of the best judges around the country who want to give back. Bill Sibilia, Jack Sullivan, Becky Clausen. We already know some of the people who've been doing this for forever, and they get so many emails, but these are some of the younger up and coming judges who want to give back and will give you fantastic feedback. Go do shows where they're at. Have the opportunity to talk to them. It's only going to be better for their careers.
Yeah, I was just at Battle of Texas, and it was like you said, a huge production. Freddie put on a great show. Sheila, and you can talk to the pros.
Yeah.
You can get advice from them. I mean, where else can you go get them when they're in their element? You actually get to watch every single last thing. So it's just so many benefits to doing it. And so you don't have to, you kind of get the experience, but you can go into it like with a GPS instead of just going out there, with a map. It just makes sense,
Well, let's give them the list of the national shows here, along with the dates that we already know. And that'll segue us into our next topic, right? Okay. So we know Junior USA's is at the beginning of the year. You guys are going to see this all on the screen here. Junior USA is where it's at in the date. Do a pro-am a few weeks before Junior USA's. Go into that show feeling much better. I believe the next national show then is Junior Nationals, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's in the middle of June. Find a pro-am. That's a few weeks before Junior Nationals. I know one right off the top of my head. There's a new show coming out, the Milwaukee Pro and Titan Open in downtown Milwaukee. That's 2 weeks before Junior Nationals. Talk about a perfect time to go and get the experience and walk into a show. You've got Masters Nationals and Universe next. I know of another show right off the top of my head, Tim Gardner's Chicago Pro. That's a few weeks ago. Again, there are other shows all across the country. We're just giving you the dates of shows. We're giving you the dates of shows where you would have the ability to literally go do a pro-am shortly before that show and get that much more time and experience. So you've got North Americans then next. That's at the end of August. And then you've got Nationals at the end of the year. So finding a show right before then, getting that experience will probably only do you good. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I believe so, man. And we was talking about Junior USA's. Is it a hidden gem?
George, Junior USA's is an absolute hidden gem that people don't talk about enough. And ironically enough, because it hasn't been talked about as much as it should in the last few years, I believe the numbers are even down a little bit, which makes it that much more of a hidden gem.
Too. Yeah.
So here's what I believe people are looking at. To get a pro card at Junior USA's in some of the divisions, not all of them. So it's a junior show, so no pro cards to bodybuilding, okay? But every other division, you get a pro card. There are some divisions you have to win your class, and then it's top 3 out of the overall battle that turned pro. In other divisions, it's a class winner, and in other divisions, it's top 2. If there's less athletes competing in that show, even if there's only 3 pro cards, let's say in men's physique, but there's only a total of 60 or 70 athletes, you still have the same opportunity as a show where the winners all get pro cards, but there's 3 times as many athletes or 2 times as many athletes. Guys aren't doing the math. Guys, it's a math equation. It's that simple. You have the same opportunity. A lot of times you have a better opportunity to get it at Junior USA's. It's out on the East Coast. Myrtle Beach is right around the corner. You know, whether you bring your husband, your wife, your family member, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you get to go and spend Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is, on a beautiful East Coast at the time of the year where it's really nice. Bennett runs a fantastic show. Everything is run smoothly. You've got almost every year, you've got the likes of judges like Sandy Williamson, Ted Williamson, Tim Gardner. These are Olympia judges.
Mm-hmm.
These are Olympia level judges that not only do you get to be in front of, but you literally get to go and talk to after the show to get feedback. I almost think it's comical that more people aren't putting that on the map, not to mention it's the first national show of the year. What more do you possibly need? Junior USA's hidden gem, absolutely a must put on your list, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think sometimes, people hear that, well, they only give out this or they only give out that. So it starts to float around as that. It's just kind of like, oh, well, it's politics, this, how people just talk. And so, like you said, if you really look at it and you run the numbers, it's actually a show that should be on your date, if that's what you're going for, because people are saying that. So you can kind of slide in, and not to say that it will be easier, but regardless, if you're thinking like that, let me see if I can find the easiest way. Then you don't have the right mindset anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You should approach every show the same. If you're going for the kill, you're going for the kill. It shouldn't matter who's pulling up. You should have the ultimate confidence in the work that you've been putting in, that you can go out and present yourself in the best way that you can and win. So now that we said it, maybe you guys should look at the numbers. Maybe people start showing up, because it really shouldn't matter anyway. If you're out competing, because that's what it's called, then you go compete. Don't try to take the easy way out.
Can I tell you a small list just off the top of my head of some of the athletes that have come out of Junior USA's? Anyone heard of Dana Lynn Bailey?
I may have heard of her.
Anyone ever heard of Cedric McMillan?
It's a small
How
guy,
about,
right?
oh, that's right. This is the men's physique division. How about Jeremy Buendia?
Oh, well,
Just to name a few who had titles at Junior USA. So maybe some people are then saying, it's only Junior USA's. Go ahead and tell that to one of those three, along with another long list. Hidden gem, great show, great production, great judging panel. It's the beginning of the year. They still have the ability to go and do every other national show if they want. It just fits in so well. Guys, if you don't know about it, go take a look. You're missing out.
All right, cool, man. Short break. Got to pay some bills. And we'll be right back with our special guest, Jeremy Potvin. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from commercial break with the one and only Jeremy Potvin. Jeremy, how you doing?
Doing good. Enjoying post-comp life, eating all the food I can think of, so can't complain.
All right, Jeremy, you've been in the game for a minute. Just a quick overview. You started out, you reached the height of third at Olympia. You took a year off, you switched around coaches, you went back to your coach. Tell us about the journey.
I mean, it's been an amazing journey. The hardest part was trying to establish a name for myself, being another short Filipino Jeremy in the game. So I spent the first portion of my career thus far trying to create my own identity. Now I feel like I've done a pretty good job of doing that.
You have, definitely.
My own person. So just enjoying what life has thrown at me so far. So
Jeremy, I want to hit you with a tough one right away. First of all, congratulations. I saw you there, got to see you on stage firsthand. It was your show all day. You were the clear-cut winner. There was no arguing. You looked great. Not the best I've ever seen you. You at that Olympia where you finished third. Ooh, that was
he
a
was
package.
frying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, you looked fantastic. There was you, and there was everybody else. But with this hiatus, you've been gone for a while.
Mhm.
You, like George touched on, you've changed coaches. This isn't the first time you've taken a break. We've heard rumors about you dropping out of a show or two here and there in the past. Tell us a little bit about it. It sounds like there's a little bit of a psyche thing that goes on with you. Need all your ducks to be in a row for you to compete, and if they're not, it seems like you're a guy who you're not going to be out there. You can't get it done. You don't want to put yourself in those positions. Not too many people talk about that, and not too many people would ask the question like I'm asking you to think, oh my God, don't insult a guy. I don't think it's insulting at all. I think it's something that people don't talk about. So are you willing to kind of open up a little bit about that? Because you are one of the best in the world, but yet this is something that you've struggled and dealt with in your career.
No, I'm an open book. I love answering whatever's thrown my way. So I am the kind of person to where everything needs to align just right, or my mental state needs to be there 100%. After the 2018 Olympia, that was a very rough prep for me. It was very extreme, and it turned me off from competing. So, for things I had some shows in mind for 2018, but it just wasn't clicking the way I wanted to. And I feel like I have a physique where I can't even be 1% off. If I'm off, I can go from looking great to looking like complete crap. I don't have the prettiest physique, so I feel like everything needs to flow perfectly. So like I said, 2018 was a rough one for me, and it took me a while to bounce back. And getting back under the guidance of Ryan Benson was a huge pivotal role in that. I left Cali. I felt like Ryan wouldn't be the best online coach or over the phone. But after talking with him, establishing that we would be in contact frequently, I decided to make the move to go back to him, and it worked out pretty well. So.
You were we don't have to mention names, but you were with another really good coach. And so, this is a conversation we talk about quite often. A lot of times the difference between one really good coach and another really good coach, they're all going to be able to get you in shape. You're saying there's a personal connection that you might have that you didn't get with somebody else. You felt far more comfortable at home with Ryan. So in all actuality, whether on paper someone may look to be better or seemingly, Ryan's the best coach for you, and he makes you the best version of you, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
absolutely. The coach I worked with in 2018, amazing person, amazing coach, very attentive, and I would recommend him easily to a lot of people. It's just his protocol versus Ryan's protocol. I felt like, and my old coach will talk about it all day. He's the kind of coach where if you're not ready to suffer or do this or that, then he's not the coach for you. And I felt like I achieved the same results with Ryan by doing, I was able to eat more, do less cardio, and it worked for me. So it's just, why do I need to put myself in a position where I'm suffering more if I don't need to?
Yeah.
I think it's just like you said, figuring out what works for you. There's nothing wrong with going out and trying something,
right?
But if you realize there is some things that you can take. I'm pretty sure there's some things that you've taken from the other guy that you brought back to Ryan. But there's a chemistry always between player and coach,
right?
And so if you have that and you have it, and you come to and you are in a good space in your life, because I think that matters too. If all my ducks are on a row, shit, I'm fucking off, my rocker. I just need to be on a roll. And then once you get on that roll and you create momentum, then you present, a nice version of yourself. I think you talked about creating your own Jeremy. Before
Yeah.
we didn't know, and then I think it was after, to be honest, after that season, you just stopped caring, and then
Yeah.
that's when we seen who you were, and it was funny, because you just
Yeah.
didn't care. You just got the same tone all the time, but you started eating pizza, and you just your personality came out, and so once again, that goes to say, be yourself at all times, because everybody has their own lane.
Yeah.
Now that you've won, you qualified, you're back in your groove. What do you have next? Like, what do you plan on? Are you sitting, or are you going to continue to build data, or what?
New York Pros next.
Okay.
Ooh,
Um,
Okay.
so
First,
I
hear
yeah.
ye, hear ye.
Is that
Someone
break?
come on.
Is
oh
that
yeah.
breaking? That's breaking.
Breaking
Nice.
news.
I like to put out what I'm gonna do. I haven't openly stated that I'm gonna do the New York Pro yet, but like I said, King's Court here's it first. So
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah, I just feel like I wanted to do a big show. It was either gonna be Pitt or New York. I was thinking about the Arnold, but I wanted to give myself the proper break in between competition preps. I wanted a PCT. I wanted to make sure my body was well and rested, and I could present my best self again at the New York Pro.
Jeremy, let me ask you this then, because I want to pony on what I asked you first.
Yeah.
There's some schools of thought who would say, hey, as a professional athlete, your job is to compete for your fans, for your sponsors, for your own personal brand. Every athlete has a different amount of shows that they're expected or wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
But with the inability sometimes to do that, some people would say that's a lack of professionalism.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of the coin is, yeah, but the guy's been really successful. When he competes, he usually is winning, or you're in the mix to be one of the best. So the other side of that coin is, well, just because he's doing less shows doesn't mean it's a lack of professionalism, because look at his resume. It speaks for itself. Is that
Mm-hmm.
something you think about, or has anyone ever talked to you about that? And how do you approach and view that now? Maybe is that different than how you did compare it in the past, or is it the same?
So this takes me back to 2016, where I won my first pro show, and I felt like it was expected of me to compete. So I ended up doing the New York Pro that year, and I wasn't my best, and I felt like I really it didn't do me any favors. Um, and something Jim Mannion told me as well was like, I'd rather if you sat out that New York Pro and just gone straight to the Olympia and shown a better look versus showing up at the New York Pro and looking like complete trash. So, my approach has always been to, or now has been to do a show and prep when I'm mentally ready and rested. Quite frankly, and I tell this with the people that I work with, my sponsors and things like that, I'm going to do a show when I'm ready, not on somebody else's dime or when somebody else wants me to compete. Because if you're doing it based off of what somebody else wants, you're not going into that prep giving it your all.
So you've had you talk about sponsors, like you've had longevity. You talk about 2016 and just your career, and even when you took time off, you kept sponsors. Like you always are in a deal. How do because people ask me, I want to hear from you. Like, how do you stay relevant, and how do you get a sponsor
Without competing? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it comes down to establishing yourself. Like I said, I've spent a lot of
But
time.
you've gotten different deals. You've went, from different companies. So it's like it's not like you've got this one deal. You've been established, but you can constantly get, opportunities. What is it that's getting you that, do you think?
It comes down to social media.
Okay.
It comes down to your followers. Are you able still to still bring in those supporters.
Yeah,
those
you have your
fans,
fan base.
and
Okay.
provide. Yeah, you know, you got to be able to provide them with what they want to see, and if you're still able to do that, even if you're being inactive, then that's pretty pivotal. Because I'm not gonna lie, 2000 or all last year, that was on my mind a lot. You know, am I gonna be relevant? Am I still gonna be able to get, you know, good deals from sponsors? But I felt like I did a pretty good job of,
I
you know,
agree.
still staying active on social media and, you know, showing them that I was working towards something. So I'm not just sitting back being a lazy ass. I'm still working, even though I'm not on stage.
Yeah, I think you definitely did a good job with that.
Yeah. Jeremy, give us a little insight into you. For those who don't know you, how do I become, or what makes me a Jeremy Potvin fan? Who are you, and why jump on a Jeremy Potvin fan? I want to know the man behind the success. I see you on stage.
Yeah.
You know, we respect what you do on stage. Who's the man behind the placings on stage?
I think the thing that draws people in is that despite my success, my follower count growing up, and all that, is I'm still the exact same person I've always been. And I feel like the people I do draw in relate to that. You know, I've never let anything get to my head. I've never changed the way I view things. I've just kind of always stayed true to being a quiet, do the work, and just showcase that.
So who is that guy, though? You said you haven't changed. Who's the guy who has
pizza eating? Very, very honest, blunt.
Right now.
When he doesn't care, he doesn't care. You know, he's funny. Like I didn't know. You know, so
that was a good way of answering without answering, Jeremy. Yeah. I want to know who the Jeremy is there, who hasn't changed.
I'm a quiet family guy. You know, I like spending time with my girlfriend, my dogs,
the dog,
my family when they're in town. You know, every chance I get, I go visit them. You know, I'm 30 now, and to me, like hitting 30 was just kind of like I see myself becoming more like my dad. You know, I'm spending money on like jackets that are more useful versus fashionable. So, you know, things like that.
So you're becoming practical and logical.
Yeah. You know, instead of buying a sports car first, I'm going to buy myself an SUV where I can take my dogs around and travel and stuff. So that's kind of the way I've always been, more so. You know, I haven't really been a very flashy person. So.
3 years from now, what do you see yourself in the sport?
3 years. And
come on, Jeremy, you got to plan all the way to the end, man. Come on.
I would like to me, bodybuilding is about progression. So I don't see myself in men's physique in 3 years. You know, I've been really hammering away at my legs. Realistically, to be competitive, I see it taking at least a couple of years of really good, solid leg development before I can even make that call. But that's where I'd like to be, you know, moving up to classic.
Okay.
We've been hearing more and more of that. You know, I think it was great bringing on that division, bridging the gap between because it's just so different, men's physique to open bodybuilding. It's almost like a completely different animal. And now with classic being there, you've got all levels of athletes, and the ability to slide slightly. For those of you who do look at this as a career, longevity, you know, if you had to stay a men's physique guy for, say, 10, 12 years, how sustainable is that? Once you guys peak out, then what? You're trying to keep the same look while making minute changes for 5-6 years. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So very interesting.
The biggest thing for me was, you know, like this show, for example, I went into this show very conservative. During prejudging, I wasn't able to pose how I used to pose. I didn't pump up. I didn't do a hard carb load. All because, you know, we were concerned about whether or not I would be too big, even though I'm a small guy. But for my frame, I'm there at that, I guess you could say, max. So they don't want me getting bigger. So it's just kind of a matter of, well, you can't really progress without getting bigger. So
Right.
True.
Yeah, I know. Ryan said that at prejudging. He said, you know, we went real conservative, and I did notice you were quite a bit sharper at night than you were at pre. You were still the best package on stage, both at prejudging and at night, so there was no doubt. But you could see you were sharper, and it was probably because of a little bit more, right? You just had a bit more of everything, which allowed the pop to happen more.
Yeah, they pretty much gave me the go ahead to pump up, you know, eat if I needed to, and pose the way I wanted to pose. So I was so much more comfortable at night. I wasn't really questioning myself. I just went out there and was able to do what I do. And, you know, the feedback from Tamer was that seeing me at the night show was just, it was completely different. and he was very impressed. So I was happy with his feedback.
Hey, one of our questions or one of our topics was West Coast versus East Coast. And you just mentioned Tamer. But you live on the East Coast now. Mm-hmm. But you just did a show out West.
Yep.
So it's like, tell us about that. Like, is that a strategic move? Like, is the West Coast still your side? Or I know you're about to do New York Pro.
Yeah.
It's just tying in.
No, it's just for me, the timing of the show.
Okay.
The only strategy behind it was it fell around the perfect time where I felt like I could be ready.
Okay.
I didn't get a show too early. Didn't want to do a show overseas. So tournament champions just happened to fall right in the right spot.
Okay. So are you consider yourself a West Coast guy? Or now that you live East, are you East Coast?
I mean,
think about it, man.
I'm the kind of guy who's not going to shy away from doing either. So,
are you East Coast or are you West Coast?
I'll call myself a West Coaster.
Okay.
I think of Jeremy Potvin
as West Coast, even though you live over here. Yeah.
Even though that's why, George, when we had a topic earlier before you came on, an age-old topic of West Coast versus East Coast. And I said, the East Coast is still number one, but the West Coast is coming on. You're back. Chiron is there. I think Fetty Mo is going to be the breakout athlete of the year for 2020. So all of a sudden, you guys are starting to bridge the gap where in the past, it was a landslide.
Yeah, all the heavy hitters on the East Coast.
Right, right. So you're a West Coast. It doesn't matter where you reside. You're a West Coast. It'd be like calling Sergio Oliva Jr. a West Coast guy. He's born and raised Chi-Town. He's gonna die Chicago love. So, all right, we're stamping you West Coast.
Anybody you want to shout out?
I mean, as far as
whoever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just my sponsors. You know, I mean, they allow me to live this life that I live. So, you know, I got to shout out.
Your time.
Performix and FitOps, they mesh. They go hand in hand. And then Jed North. So, you know, they, like I said, wouldn't be here without them. So.
You know, it'd be interesting. You doing a New York Pro. Who knows? One of them might be looking to get a hold of Maximum Muscle Report and sponsor the show coverage for that weekend, since you're going to be in the mix for that win. We'll have to reach out and see what they have to say.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be more than willing. Oh, I know.
Oh,
I was there for that one.
Listen. We was talking about it. I figured I might as well.
Yep.
Yeah. You got to get you one, man.
Jeremy, it's been a pleasure. Absolutely enjoyed having you on.
Well, I appreciate y'all for having me on and let me take part in King's Court. It's been an honor.
Definitely, man. Hey, man, keep doing what you're doing, man. You know, because you're trailblazer. We all are, you know. So, wish you nothing but the best, man. Go kill the New York Pro. I see you, you know, around because you're always around. My co-host, myself, and Jeremy Potvin for the King's Court. Another great episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
I'm officially a Jeremy Potvin fan now. Put me on the bandwagon. He sold me. Have a happy
guys,
holiday
man.
to everybody.